Hello everyone, this is Ben with Bathroom Brews MTG. Today I'll be going over the new spoilers from Lost Caverns of Ixalan. I won't be covering any of the commander cards, special guest, or box toppers here, just the main set. Once the full commander decks are up, however, I will be doing videos on those. And if you can give this video a like, it really helps out the channel. And if you'd like to take your support even further, you can become a member to get some awesome perks. Okay, with all the plugs out of the way, let's get into it. Alright, let's kick things off with Saheeli, the Sun's Brilliance. This is a 2-mana 2/2 human artificer that you can pay a red and a blue to tap, create a token that's a copy of another target artifact or creature you control, except it's an artifact in addition to its other types. It gains haste, sack it at the beginning of the next end step. Alright, this seems like a really cool commander. I don't know how good it'll be in standard, but it's 2 mana to make a token of another target creature artifact you control. It does get haste and you do sacrifice it, which can be good if you want to copy like a Mirror Retriever to always get that graveyard trigger. Yeah, I really like this card. I hope it's not too expensive. I definitely have some homes for it. Alright, next up is Quintorius Khand. This is a 5 mana 4 loyalty planeswalker, Quintorius. Whenever you cast a spell from exile, it deals 2 damage to each opponent and you gain 2 life, which is great. Then its +1 is you create a 3/2 red and white spirit creature token. -3 is Discover 4. So Discover is the new Cascade mechanic, where you exile cards from the top of your library until you hit something mana value 4 or less, and you may cast it without paying its mana cost. And then its -6 is exile any number of target cards from your graveyard, add red for each card exiled this way, you may play those cards this turn. Okay, so it's a 5 mana walker that comes in with 4 and protects itself, which is great. I don't know how good this will be in Commander, but it seems like it'll be really good in Limited and maybe in Standard. Honestly, I don't play a ton of Standard, so I'm going to look at this from more of a Commander perspective, and it seems like it'd be fine. Next up is Abuelo, Ancestral Echo. This is a 3 mana 2/2 legendary creature spirit with flying in War 2. You can pay 1 blue-white, exile another target creature or artifact you control, return to the battlefield under its owner's control at the beginning of the next end step. It's a Blink commander. It's fine. It's a spirit. I like that as War 2. Not much else to say about it. Next up is Vito, Fanatic of Aglaz Oats? Sure, I'm going with that. It's a 4 mana 4/4 legendary creature vampire demon with flying. Whenever you sack another permanent, you gain 2 life if this is the first time this ability is resolved this turn. If it's the second time, each opponent loses 2 life. And if it's the third time, you create a 4/3 white-black vampire demon creature token with flying. Yeah, that's pretty cool, I guess. It's an Aristocrats commander. It's a 4/4 flyer. It's fine. It doesn't really impress me. I mean, it is each turn, so if you sacrifice 3 creatures, you can get 4/3s on the same turn, in one turn cycle rather. I'm not mad at that. I think it's okay. Next up is, I'm not going to pronounce this right. Ojir Tak, Deepest Foundation. It's a 6 mana 6/6 legendary creature god with vigilance. If 1 or more creature tokens would be created under your control, 3 times that many of those tokens are created instead. Okay, love that for mono white tokens. But there's more. When it dies, you return it to the battlefield tapped and transformed under its owner's control. And you get the backside. It's Temple of Civilization, which you can tap to add a white, or pay 2 and a white, tap, transform it, activate only if you've attacked with 3 or more creatures this turn and only as a sorcery. That's actually a great commander. It protects itself, because when it dies, it just flips over and then you can flip it back. And it's a token tripler, specifically creature tokens. I really like this card, and it's a 6 mana 6/6, which means it could go in my Colossal Dreadmont deck. Next up is a new land, Restless Prairie. So it's an ETB tapped, taps for a green or a white, and you can pay 2 green and a white, so 4 mana. It becomes a 3/3 green and white llama creature until end of turn. Love that. It's still a land. Whenever it attacks, other creatures you control get +1/+1 till end of turn. This will probably be a pretty cheap dual land. I like that it becomes a llama for some reason. Next up is Malcolm, Alluring Scoundrel. This is a 2 mana 2/1 Siren Pirate with flash flying, and whenever it deals combat damage to a player, put a chorus counter on it. Draw a card, then discard a card. If there are 4 more chorus counters on it, you may cast a discarded card without paying its mana cost. So whenever it deals combat damage, this would be a pretty cool commander. It's mono blue, it's cheap, it comes down early. You can crack in, put some counters on it. If you have proliferation, you can put more counters on it to draw more cards, and then cast things for free. They're not draw more cards, I'm sorry, just cast things for free quicker. Yeah, I like it. Next up is the Micro Tyrant. It's a 3 mana star legendary creature Elder Fungus with trample. Its power and toughness are equal to the number of creatures you control that are fungi and or saplings. At the beginning of your end step, you create X 1/1 black fungus creature tokens. With this creature can't block, where X is the number of times you've descended this turn. You descend each time a permanent card is put into your graveyard from anywhere. This seems like a really cool commander. I really like that the tokens can't block because of limited. It just makes it a little less oppressive. And in commander, that's fine because you can end up just sacrificing a lot of them. And it's not like commander doesn't have a ton of ways to make tokens that can block. So yeah, it's a cheap Golgari commander with trample. I really like it. Next up is Hit the Motherlode. This is a 7 mana sorcery for red. You discover 10. If the discovered card's mana value is less than 10, create a number of tapped treasure tokens equal to the difference. This seems like just a cool big red card. You get to rip something off the top that's 10 or less. If it's 1 mana, you get 9 treasures. If you hit something like Wheel of Fortune, not Wheel of Fortune, the suspend wheel, I don't remember what it's called, Wheel of Fate, I think. You would get 10 treasures and you wheel. Seems really good. Next up is the Enigma Jewel. It's 1 blue mana legendary artifact that enters tapped. You can tap it to add 2 colorless, and you spend this mana only to activate abilities. And it has craft with 4 more non-lands with activated abilities for 8 and 1 blue. So you pay that 9 mana, exile this artifact, exile the 4 more from among permanents you control and or cards in your graveyard. Return this card transformed under its owner's control. You can only craft as a sorcery. So before we even get to the backside, so you spend 9 mana, you exile this and a bunch of other things, which is cool. It's from either your graveyard or under your control, so it's a less of a downside. And it flips into Locus of Enlightenment. It's a legendary artifact that has activated abilities of the exiled cards used to craft it. You may activate each of those abilities only once each turn. Whenever you activate an ability that isn't a mana ability, copy it. You may choose new copies for the target. This seems like a really powerful card, especially in like artifact decks that are easy to abuse this. Yeah, no, this seems like really good. Let me know in the comments how you would end up breaking this. I'm sure there's some really stupid ways too. Next up is Jadelight Splunker. It's an X green for a 1/1. When it ETBs, you explore X times. Solid card, you explore X. Probably more of a standard card. I don't know where we'll really see this in Commander. If you get infinite mana, you could just explore until you hit exactly what you need and then make this pretty large. Or if you explore till you hit a non-land permanent and then just leave it on top and make this infinitely large and like throw it at someone. But yeah, it's a fine card. It's a Merfolk, so it'll go in Simic Merfolk. Next up is Souls of the Lost. It's a 1 and a black 2 mana creature spirit with star and star +1, so like Tarmogoyf. As an additional cost to cast this spell, discard or sacrifice a permanent. Okay. And then it has Souls of the Lost power is equal to the number of permanent cards in your graveyard, and its toughness is equal to that number +1. So this is a new Gyof. It's equal to the number of permanents, so it's not quite Gyof, because Gyof you can get like a pretty big pretty early. But this is a 2 mana 0. This is immediately a 2 mana 1/2, which is great. I like this in Mimeoplasm. This might be really good in Mimeo. I might try it in maybe like my Tormod deck because I can discard something to dredge. In Standard, I think this will be pretty good. And in Commander, I think it's fine. Next up is the Everflowing Well. It's a 3 mana legendary artifact in blue. When it ETBs, you mill 2 cards and draw 2 cards. And then it has Descent 8. At the beginning of your upkeep, if there are 8 or more permanent cards in your graveyard, transform the Everflowing Well. And it flips into a legendary artifact land that taps for blue. And whenever you cast a permanent spell using mana produced by the Myriad Pools, up to 1 other target permanent you control becomes a copy of that spell until end of turn. It seems like a pretty good flip card. You only need 8 cards in your graveyard, which isn't that many. This would probably be really good in like the 9th Doctor where you get additional upkeep. So if you have enough cards in there, you can like flip this on the same turn. I like this a lot in Commander. It's great in like an artifact deck. Next up is Cosmium Confluence. It's a 5 mana green sorcery. Choose 3. You may choose the same mode more than once. Search your library for a cave card, put it onto the battlefield tapped, then shuffle. Caves are a new land type. You can put 3 +1/+1 counters on a cave you control. It becomes a 0/0 elemental creature token with haste, it's still a land. Or destroy target enchantment. Okay, so if you have a cave out, and if you don't know, modal cards resolve top down. So you would first put a land onto the battlefield, then you would put counters on it, so that way it resolves the right order. So you could either get a land out onto the battlefield tapped and make it into a 6/6 with haste, which is fine, or destroy 3 enchantments. We'll have to see what kind of caves we have. There is a common cycle of them, but we'll see what like rare caves we get later on during spoiler season. I think that'll kind of determine how good this is. It is 5 mana ramp 3, which isn't bad, and I like that you can destroy enchantments. Maybe in like a hard ramp deck, you'll really want this. Next up is Intrepid Paleontologist. It's a 2 mana 2/2 human druid, taps to add 1 mana of any color. Great. 2 mana, exile target card from a graveyard. Fine, graveyard hate. You may cast dinosaur creature spells from among cards you own exiled with it. If you cast a spell this way, that creature enters the battlefield with a finality counter on it. Okay, so you can like exile your own graveyard and you can then cast stuff with Intrepid Paleontologist. Don't know if you want to play it in a dinosaur deck, because the issue is dinosaurs, like tribal or typal decks, generally want a lot of those creatures. So you have to be really selective with the cards you add that aren't that creature type. And that wraps up today's spoiler video. There were more cards spoiled, but I'm only covering the new rare and mythics today. I will be doing a PDH video once the full set is spoiled, so if you're interested in that, make sure to hit the subscribe button. Alright, see ya!